Hey guys, it's Steve from Antics here. You're listening to the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast. Only on the Count It Out 7 YouTube channel. Jay, let's go!
Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to the WrestleMania Go Home edition of the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast. My name is Jay, and I'm joined, of course, by my partner in crime, the peanut butter to my jelly, Tyrone. Tyrone, how you doing, pal?
Well, it's peanut butter jelly time, brother, as they like to say. I'm all right. I got to say, this being the, as you just said, go home for WrestleMania show, I don't even feel like it's WrestleMania season, personally. I know I might be in the minority on that, but I'm not excited in the slightest.
Yeah, well, it has been a bit of a polarizing card this year, that's for sure. I think that some people are really excited for it, like myself. I am very excited for both nights. There's others like yourself that are not very enthusiastic about either card. I think that there's a little bit of everything for everybody this year. I know that you are maybe looking forward to Edge and AJ Styles more than anything else. And of course, for me, I am chomping at the bit to see my old personal, dear, longtime favorite of many, Stone Cold Steve Austin, come back and open up one last can of whoop ass. I will be in my living room with my WrestleMania themed party table loaded with snacks, cold beers, a little bit of the Rock's tequila, and I will be very much invested in that particular piece of business.
I am looking forward to that match, as you said, but also because are they rumors anymore? Are they all but confirmed? I'm looking forward to the American Nightmare against Seth freaking Rollins. I think there is your match of the night. I think that's going to steal the entire card. They're both phenomenal workers, but as far as pops and everything like that go, no one's going to touch Steve Austin.
No, I don't think so. And okay, so that brings up an interesting question for you. Do you think that they should do... Okay, so as we record this, folks, we are recording on the Sunday before WrestleMania. So tomorrow night is the Go Home Raw. We have yet to see what's going to happen going into WrestleMania. Tyrone, if it was you, would you want to book Cody Rhodes to show up tomorrow night on Raw to make the match with Seth Rollins? Would you want him to show up as a surprise on one of the nights at WrestleMania? Or would you like to see him debut on the Raw after WrestleMania and kind of reestablish that show as must-see for us diehards?
I would definitely have him come out tomorrow night, put the challenge down. Maybe not the challenge, but say that he is the one, because there's something going on social media right now where Seth Rollins showed a stupid text that was apparently from Vince McMahon saying that someone from his office would be in touch with him tomorrow morning. Obviously, he wouldn't be calling him Seth in a text, but there's so much bullshit to that. But I think we're getting Cody tomorrow night. I think it's the smart choice to do, because if you look at having him come out at WrestleMania, I don't know if the event's fully sold out. This could help tip the scales. He's also a Texan. It could really help that way. Plus, with the Raw after Mania, there are still so many people that you can throw in that position. Like Bayley could come back that day. I've heard that there's potentially Bobby Lashley at Mania, but I'm not sure. Lashley could be the return that time. There are people who are injured that could make their comeback. Asuka, there are tons of names out there that could be doing that. We could also get NXT call-ups. We could also get something that none of us even know. There could be some huge hidden spoiler going on that we don't even fucking know that will blow all of our minds in 8 days.
Yeah, 100%. I got to say, I'm pretty excited about Bayley making her return. I don't know. I've heard that it's going to be a couple of weeks after WrestleMania. I think it'd be an enormous pop if she does make that return on the Monday after Mania. Yeah, I guess I'm with you. I wouldn't mind knowing ahead of time, knowing going into the show that he is going to be there. I personally am not as excited about this Cody Rhodes situation as most people are. I think for me, it's overshadowed by the Steve Austin return, which I think for a lot of other people is the opposite. A lot of people are more excited about the Cody thing, and I get it. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he ends up coming into the company. I'm a little bit concerned that he's going to end up coming in with a big pop. He's going to make a big impact in the beginning. And then before you know it, he's going to be relegated to being the same level as everybody else on the card within a matter of months. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do to follow up and capitalize on all this buzz that he's getting right now.
I think they're going to keep it going. I don't think that they could fuck this up because I think the crowd is going to be so behind him. We haven't seen an AEW established wrestler jump to the WWE yet. This is the first one. So in a weird sense, this is like Big Show, Paul White going from WCW to the WWF 20 some odd years ago. Cody was one of the founding fathers of AEW. So for him to leave and come back, I feel like he definitely has some faith in the creative team and in Vince himself. I don't think it's just a payday because I don't think Cody really needs the money right now. So I don't think he'll flounder once this is done. I think he will, mark my words, be the WWE champion by Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens for sure. I'm going to be very curious to see what they do with it in terms of his introduction. And of course, there is an exciting element to it. I am going to be excited to see him return. I think there's a lot on this card, as I said earlier, that offers a little bit of everything for everybody. There's something there for everybody. So I really do think that, and I hope that whomever invests the time to go and watch both shows really gets something out of both nights. I mean, I have to say that on its face, I wasn't necessarily excited for Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. But as it draws closer and as they've been building it now on the road to WrestleMania with the various components to the angle, I have become more invested in the actual program. So I'm excited to see the conclusion of that. And of course, the Edge AJ Styles match is going to be great. So I think that we have a lot to look forward to. The Undertaker is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame on Friday night as well, which is very exciting.
Jay, let me ask you this, though. Of the card, like I know you said you're looking forward to both nights, and obviously you're going to be looking forward to Steve Austin mainly. What matches are you not looking forward to? Are there any that either the build is just not great or you just don't care? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll start it off. For example, Charlotte and Ronda Rousey. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I do not give two shits about this. If it were the other way around and you were getting Becky and Ronda kind of avenging the fact that Becky pinned Ronda at Mania a couple years ago, there's a built-in story. I don't care about that. I don't care about I'm going to leave the celebrity ones out of there because we also know that. But also Drew McIntyre and Happy Corbin, I don't get that WrestleMania match. That's kind of out of left field. But surprisingly, one thing I am looking forward to, I will say, is the Triple Threat Raw Tag Team Championship match because RK Bro can do no wrong in my eyes.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, I'm rather excited for the triple threat. I think I really like what Alpha Academy is doing right now as well. I think that they're a great team. They've really come into their own in terms of their finding of the characters. So I really find them entertaining. RK Bro, I'm really excited about. I really enjoy them as a team as well. I'm with you. The Drew McIntyre and Madcap Moss, or not Madcap Moss, sorry. Drew McIntyre and Happy Corbin situation is not something that I'm particularly excited for. It's a shame with the way they're booking McIntyre, and I understand that you can't keep everybody red hot all the time, but considering the WrestleMania 36 that we were going into a couple years ago, looking towards that Lesnar and McIntyre match with McIntyre going over in the Royal Rumble, you couldn't have had a hotter performer going into WrestleMania that year than Drew McIntyre. And to see that he's now up against Happy Corbin in a throwaway match is just, I really hope that after this feud blows off, that they will be able to start reheating McIntyre back into the absolute force that he was going into WrestleMania a couple of years ago. I really think that big things are coming for him. And I hope that he reignites it to the extent that he can get a really solid title run.
Well, it's funny because the past 2 years he's been in the WWE Championship match. This year he's not. He's relegated to I don't even want to say the mid card. I almost want to say the lower mid card. So to a degree, he's the King Kong Bundy of this year.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how it all shakes out. I mean, you know how it is with WrestleMania that some years certain performers get relegated to certain spots and then they are able to reascend up the ladder afterwards. We have a couple of really big events coming up. I mean, I believe that SummerSlam this year is actually in July, and it's going to be in an outdoor stadium in Nashville. And if I'm not mistaken, they're going to do a stadium show for the Money in the Bank as well. Or do I have that incorrect?
I have zero idea whatsoever. I definitely don't look ahead in the schedule like you do. I go day by day, moment by moment, live in the moment, then, now,
Yeah.
forever.
Yes, together. Yes, I'm right there with you. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention a couple of words about Scott Hall. We haven't had an opportunity to record since his untimely passing. I was always a big fan of the Razor Ramon gimmick, as well as Scott Hall and the NWO. I think there's an argument to be made that if Razor, the character, wasn't established, then the NWO would never have happened. Same thing with the Diesel character. I think that those two performers had to go to WWF and become stars there before they had the kind of a drawing ability that they would later on in the NWO years. But Scott Hall, great mind for the business. For some reason, I always think of him in WWF. I think of him in that match against Vader, his last pay-per-view match at In Your House. Ironically enough, good friends, better enemies. What are your favorite memories quickly about Scott Hall and Razor Ramon? Do you have any favorite matches or moments that you can point to?
So I might get a little choked up here while I say this. So I'm going to try and make it quick. And if I talk fast, you'll get why. WrestleMania 10 was the very first pay-per-view that I ever actually ordered live with the black box. And I watched it with my dad and watching that ladder match. And a couple of days after Scott's passing, I lost my father. So I'm just going to have to go with that just for that reason alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And a wonderful memory, of course. We've had some discussions off air. So, yeah, I just think that it was important for us to briefly touch on it. Not that it doesn't deserve a longer conversation, but we're not talking about Razor Ramon or Scott Hall this week. We will be, of course, through the course of the weeks and months, booking various matches with both iterations of Scott Hall, the character, as well as Razor Ramon, and we'll pay tribute to him through our booking efforts. And we wish the absolute best to his family and friends and fans. And then the last thing, Tyrone, I want to touch on briefly before we get into the booking this week is, of course, Triple H. He had announced his retirement for in-ring competition. And, quite a harrowing situation that he went through. None of us had any idea the extent of his health issues. But obviously he's made the correct choice to retire. He doesn't have anything left to prove in the ring. Whether you enjoyed his work or not, he has a career that is almost unparalleled to anyone else. He's one of the top tier performers in the business in terms of his career accolades and achievements. And it's actually kind of ironic that his final match that he had was against Randy Orton at one of the Crown Jewel shows. So kind of full circle that he went up against one of his young upstarts in the Evolution.
That wasn't his final match, bud. Where did you get that from?
I was under the impression that was his final match.
His final match, and I've seen this all over social media, was a house show in Japan in a tag match where it was him and Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Bobby Roode and somebody else, and I can't fucking remember who, but that was his final match, was a tag team match with Bobby Roode.
Oh, I did not know that. I completely was misinformed on that, so I will put on my orthopedic shoes and stand corrected. I do
Bobby
think
Roode
that,
and Samoa Joe.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Whatever his last match was, whether it was that one that you just mentioned or another one, I do think that, as we said, I know, Tyrone, you're not the biggest fan of Triple H.
No. But hold on, just kind of what you were saying there, where you were saying if his final match was against Randy Orton, kind of the teacher and the student type thing, having his final match with those are three people he is responsible for in the WWE. They are all former NXT champions and wouldn't have gotten that if it wasn't for him. So I also do think it is a fitting final match.
Yeah, and I mean, his final match was with Batista at WrestleMania, so that kind of tied up full circle as well. I really didn't think that he had anything left to prove in the ring anyhow, and obviously he didn't get to go out on his terms in terms of deciding when to hang up his boots. But I wish him all the best with his health and his happiness and success, continued success. He has a lovely family that he's raising, three young daughters. And I just think that as we go forward, he is going to be so well served to help formulate the minds of young talents in terms of their perspective of the business and how they perceive going forward. So, we just wish him the best. And I'm sure I speak for you when I say that, we thank him for all his contributions. And I certainly look fondly back at some of the moments of his career with great respect and admiration.
God bless that hog pen match. That was a beautiful thing.
It was a beautiful thing. I really enjoyed the hog pen match. Okie dokie. Well, with that being said, I believe we are ready to get into this week's offering of our rebooking, which is WrestleMania 20 from Madison Square Garden, New York City, New York. It took place on March 14th, 2004. Now, Tyrone, you set the table for me with your booking of No Way Out in 2004. Can you quickly walk us through how we arrived at Madison Square Garden on this fateful night in March of 2004?
You do this to me every week, and every week I think of it as a total loop, and I don't have the note in front of me, so give me 1 second here. You would think I would learn by now. Okie dokie. So, starting off, though, we did keep the Royal Rumble winner the same with Chris Benoit winning the Royal Rumble match. We did have a fun Cruiserweight championship match, or not championship, just Cruiserweight match to kick it off. 6-man with Akio Sakota and Tajiri taking on Brian Kendrick, Paul London, and the Ultimo Dragon. That team ended up getting the win by disqualification. We had the world's greatest tag team take the tag titles from Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty, because fuck Scotty 2 Hotty and Rikishi, that's what I say. We kept the fun blindfold match with Noble and Nydia. We added Ernest the Cat Miller to the card. I'm wondering if he'll make it to WrestleMania. I'm not exactly hopeful, but you never know. It's WrestleMania. Things happen. What else did we do here? We had Chavo and Rey stay the same. Angle, John Cena and Hardcore Holly for a number one contenders match. And then we had Eddie Guerrero and Brock Lesnar staying the same, minus the Goldberg interference. So for the most part, you had it laid out for you. I know that we were joking for the last little while of, will Bob Holly make it on the card? And I am genuinely curious to see, is there a spot for the hardcore one, Bob Holly? So without further ado, Jay, are you ready to get into the rebooking of WrestleMania 20, where it all begins again?
I most certainly am, pal. And just to quickly add a little bit on top of your final match booking there, the way that we got to Eddie Guerrero going over on Brock Lesnar was the Undertaker's gong, much like it would in canon the month previous at the Royal Rumble. We moved that spot over to this one, rather Tyrone did, and we had the Undertaker's gong distract Brock Lesnar, who had buried the Undertaker alive at Survivor Series 2003. So that is what set us up for a potential match here at WrestleMania and one of the really tentpole angles going into this particular show.
And now that the news alert is over, we are ready to get back to the action. So we're going to send it on down to ringside with our opening contest of WrestleMania 20, which is originally for the United States Championship, with John Cena, the Doctor of Thugonomics, going up against the world's largest athlete, The Big Show.
All right. Well, I appreciate that very much, sir. Just a couple of pieces of house cleaning here. We will continue to have the Boys Choir of Harlem sing America the Beautiful. I thought that was one of the best renditions of the America the Beautiful opening number in the history of WrestleMania. I also played with the idea of going old school with the Madison Square Garden setup, but ultimately kept the stage the same. I felt like for an event of this magnitude, you kind of had to have the larger stage with the pyrotechnics display and that sort of thing. The opening contest on WrestleMania 20 is actually on Sunday Night Heat, and it is Hardcore Holly and Billy Gunn going up against Scotty 2 Hotty and Rikishi.
All right. I mean, we're watching the progressive fall of Bob Holly, it seems. Goes from number one contender to sort of in the number one contender mix to Heat. And I am not mad at it. At least he's on the card. It's still a WrestleMania match to a degree.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I really, really tried to come up with another spot for him. But there are so many moving parts on this card. There are so many things going on, so many different performers. I just couldn't come up with a scenario that made a lot of sense. So ultimately, it was something that I was holding on to right until the 11th hour, and then just ultimately decided, hey, you know what? Let's get him on Heat. Him and Billy Gunn were in Canada tag team as well. So why not go with this? It's a fun opener. Scotty's isolated by Hardcore. Gunn gets the tag and is stopped short by a desperation mule kick to the face and chest by Scotty 2 Hotty. Gets the hot tag to Rikishi. Kish goes off the ropes and is greeted by a kick to the back by Holly on the apron. Gunn hits the Famouser. Your winners, Billy Gunn and Hardcore Holly.
Well, at least Bob Holly can say he picked up another win at WrestleMania, because I honestly think if you look in the history books, I don't think Bob Holly's ever lost at WrestleMania, which is almost mind-boggling. I could be wrong. I feel like there's only one or two appearances, but I don't think he's ever lost.
Yeah, you might be right about that. He won the WrestleMania 2000 Battle Royal, and I believe he won the
at 16
the triple threat.
I think he won
the
that
Hardcore
too.
I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah, you're right. He might be he might be onto a streak himself.
Jesus Christ, we got to remember that. We got to remember that. All right.
Yes, that is now been earmarked.
I gotta say, it's funny because when I was doing my rundown, I said fuck Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty. They're on Heat, so clearly you didn't really give two shits about them either in this match. So yeah, I'm okay with this. It's a fun little opener to kind of get the crowd's lips wet. They know that there's so much more to come. You get somebody like Billy Gunn, who's a fucking fantastic athlete, and Bob Holly, who are both WWF faithfuls. Throw them in there. I like it.
Yeah, I think so. It's they're all Attitude Era stars, or they were rather large stars in the Attitude Era. So, and again, they've all been with the company for a long time, so they all deserved a spot on the card, I think. Going on to the next match, it's actually going to stay the same. The United States Championship, Big Show, the champion, going up against John Cena. Decided to keep this as an opener. I felt like it was a really hot way to start the show. Cena was really gaining some momentum at this point, so I didn't really see any much point in changing it. Or adding someone, swapping someone out. I just felt like it was a really solid opener for Mania.
Match stays the same, like same finish. Cena's going over, everything like that. Put him on the shoulders, hitting the attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, hitting the FU.
Yeah, everything is staying the same. It's just more or less. There's going to be a couple matches on this card that are going to stay the same, and I just think that some of them don't need to change at all.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, you've got John Cena, who is clearly the golden child of the company pretty much at this point. They're definitely attaching that rocket ship to him. We would see what would happen only a year later and then continue happening almost till present day. So it makes sense. Yeah, I like it. You ready to move on to the next one, which is going to be, I think, where we start having some fun?
I believe so.
All right, so I just got to say, before I say what this match is, you were given a hard fucking task, and that is you had to rebook a show that included both Raw and SmackDown. Storylines from both, having to continue storylines from both. So first of all, I just want to amend you on doing that. Second of all, now we're getting into the Fatal 4-Way for the Raw World Tag Team Championship, which, listen to this match. It is so fucking weird to me. Rob Van Dam and Booker T are your tag team champions going into the event, so kind of the RK Bro of 2004, defending against Garrison Cade and Mark Jindrak, the Dudley Boys, and the team of Rob Conway and Rene Dupree representing La Resistance. What do we got in its place, bud?
Well, in its place, my friend, we have a fatal four-way match for the World Tag Team Championships. It is your champions, the Dudley Boys, going up against Chris Jericho and Christian versus La Resistance versus a mystery team.
Okay, why Chris Jericho and Christian as a team still, considering we got a match here, and I thought it was kind of a perfect story. So first, fill me in on that.
I'm going to run you through all of it, pal. So in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania, Eric Bischoff determines that there are too many worthy challengers for the World Tag Team Championship. Bischoff decrees that there will be a fatal four-way elimination match at WrestleMania. It'll be your champions, the Dudley Boys, going up against La Resistance, going up against Christian and Chris Jericho, and one other team. Bischoff goes on to say that he is mindful that this is the 20th anniversary of WrestleMania, and as such, will be entering a mystery team from WrestleMania's past into the contest. Meanwhile, both Christian and Chris Jericho have continued to have their issues, as the bet the two had regarding Trish and Lita had been discovered by the two women, just like in canon. Once Jericho developed real feelings for Trish, Christian is at a loss. On the go-home Raw, Trish would be in action against Molly Holly and have her bell rung. As Trish was attended to backstage afterwards, Jericho is seemingly more concerned with Trish's well-being than the team's upcoming match. With their opponents in the ring, Christian has to practically drag Jericho away. After a successful win over the Hurricane and Rousey, the tensions are palpable. At WrestleMania, Jericho and Christian are out first, followed by La Resistance. The Dudley Boys make their way to ringside. Finally, after a few moments of anticipation, we hear "Eat Your Heart Out," Rick Springfield, as it reverberates through Madison Square Garden, and Jimmy Hart emerges with his megaphone in tow to a huge pop. He points to the entranceway to reveal the Nasty Boys. After the dust settles, we are treated.
Fucking thought you were going there already. I thought this was happening as soon as you said a mystery team of Mania. Oh, Jave, you can see my face right now. Oh, I want to kiss you. I want to kiss you.
I thought you'd get a kick out of this. So where was I? So after the dust settles, we were treated to a fun tag team offering. La Resistance is eliminated first after Brian Knobbs executes Pity City on Sylvain Grenier, followed by a roll-up. As the Nasties celebrate, Knobbs walks into a 3D, and unfortunately, Tyrone, the Nasties are eliminated. Christian and Chris Jericho are now left and are working on the same page. The finish comes as Jericho is backdropped over the top rope, seemingly tweaking his knee. A concerned Trish runs down to ringside. As Trish attends to Jericho, Christian is left to contend with the Dudleys. Jericho makes his way to the apron, but Christian is worn out. Jericho manages to tag into the match and gingerly attempts to mount an offense. As Jericho holds his own, Christian, now on the floor, seemingly forces himself on Trish. A distracted Jericho is nailed with a 3D for the pin. Your winners, the Dudley Boys. After the pin, a confused and enraged Jericho protects Trish, who has now entered the ring and is using Jericho as a shield. Christian is now back in the ring and shoved by Jericho. But just as this happens, Trish kicks Jericho from behind in the groin. Christian hits the Unprettier, and Christian make their way out to the entrance, passionately kissing, just as they did in canon. So we've just basically done the heel turn here at WrestleMania instead of doing it before to set up the match at Mania.
Okay. I mean, obviously, I'm elated that the Nasty Boys are in the match. A little bummed they didn't win, but obviously, I get it. It just, the more I think about it, the more we made those jokes that they were going to go on a 25-year tag team title run. But then when I did Mania 9 with Tyler, he didn't even have them as the champions. So now I need to figure out when they're going to lose it in 92 and break my heart. But that's for another day. No, it's fine. I kind of am a little bummed that we're robbed of the Jericho Christian match at Mania because I thought it was a good match, but I guess we'll set it up down the road. I would have liked to see a little bit more of the La Resistance because they're the new team. But yeah, overall, it's fine. Dudley's won. I get it. Makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like the Dudleys weren't booked super strong in 2004. And I also felt like this also gives us something coming out of WrestleMania. I mean, obviously the Jericho and Christian thing would continue on in canon after this, but I felt like if you do the breakup here on the big stage and Trish swerves Jericho here, I feel like it's maybe more impactful. Um, and then from there you can set up the actual angle and matches going on into the subsequent pay-per-views. I kind of just felt like maybe just drawing it out a little bit longer made more sense. So yeah, I mean, you can go either way with it, really.
Yeah, okay. I'm cool with it. It makes sense. We're gonna keep the program going. Maybe we'll do something with La Resistance down the road. Maybe the Nasty Boys will show up on Raw and challenge the Dudleys. Who knows? That'd be a fun little one-on-one tag match. I guess 2-on-2. But moving on, the next match on the card was Christian versus Chris Jericho. I don't think that's happening unless they're pulling double duty. So what do we got in its place there, bud?
Next match on the card is an interpromotional match. It is Rob Van Dam going up against Rey Mysterio.
Okay, this could be a fun little high flying interpromotional. It pulls Ray out of the Chavo Classic, which it's nice. It gives him a bit of an opportunity to shine. Same with RVD not being in that weird fatal 4-way match. So yeah, run it down. I like this.
All right, so we got a match built on mutual respect. Van Dam would make his way to SmackDown in an effort to challenge Ray specifically. After Ray accepts, the two men shake hands. The two men would take turns scouting each other on Mondays and Thursdays. On the Go Home Raw, Van Dam would take on Lance Cade. When Jindrak interferes, Mysterio attempts to make the save, accidentally laying out Rob Van Dam in the process. At WrestleMania, Van Dam would work as a heel. It was just what you'd expect, aerial offense galore. The finish comes as Van Dam nails a step over heel kick and a 5-star frog splash. Mysterio manages to kick out at the last second. A frustrated Van Dam picks up a seemingly lifeless Mysterio for another kick, step over heel kick rather, and in a moment of hesitation shows compassion for Ray. Mysterio then applies a small package for the victory. Your winner, Rey Mysterio.
Yep, makes sense. Sounds like a fun little match. Sounds like you could almost get a heel turn out of either one if we go one way or the other. I'm okay with Ray finally getting a big WrestleMania win.
Yeah, and I felt like when you show that moment of hesitation for RVD, even if he's working heel in the match, when you show that moment of compassion, then you can kind of tell the story that it was heat of the battle type stuff, and he stays a face on Raw. I don't think you need to do a full heel turn on either guy. So that was just kind of my way of setting up having somebody work as heel, but you can go right back to having him as a baby face the next night.
Yeah, absolutely. And it pulls Rob Van Dam out of the tag division, which he was just kind of there in 2004. Like he wasn't really doing anything. Random pairings. Like wouldn't he win the tag titles with Rey Mysterio at some point down the road soon?
I don't remember. I just thought that whole Booker T and Rob Van Dam tag team, I honestly forget about it every time I see it. And I just thought we could do a lot better than have that tag team. So.
And you did. I will say that. So far your card is it's good. I'm not mad. I mean, how can I be? I have the Nasty Boys in 2004. So yeah, we're fucking rolling. Let's move on to the next match, which is one of the marquee matches and goes to show you that on a WrestleMania card, a main event can take place in the middle of the card, correct? Correct.
Yes, sir.
Up next, we have the Rock and Sock Connection, Mick Foley and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, going up against that wonderful upcomer Dave Batista with his little buddy Randy Orton and their grandfather Ric Flair. Evolution.
Next match on the card is for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. It is Chavo Guerrero going up against the Ultimo Dragon.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Feel like this is going to be a fun little high flyer. Plus technical, plus even brawling. These guys could really do it all. So yeah, let's put this in front of me. Paint the picture.
So, following his victory at No Way Out, the Ultimo Dragon is named the #1 contender. Chavo Classic would be scouting Dragon weekly on SmackDown. Chavo was obviously nervous about his upcoming title defense. Finally, the Guerreros would attack the Dragon following the Dragon's victory over Jamie Noble on SmackDown. Classic is barred from ringside at WrestleMania. The match is a high-flying spectacular. Chavo is on the outside, and the Dragon hits a springboard Hurricane Rana on the floor, sending Chavo sailing up the ramp. As the referee checks on Chavo, Classic, who is in the crowd, nails Dragon with a brass knucks. Classic beelines it into the sea of fans so he's not discovered by the referee. Chavo, having collected himself, rolls the Dragon into the ring and lends the frog splash for the victory. Your winner, and still WWE Cruiserweight Champion, Chavo Guerrero.
You know, if we can't have the Nasty Boys go on a 20-year title run, maybe we should have Chavo do it. Because when I think the Cruiserweight Championship, at least in the WWE, he's the only name that really pops to my head. I think that this is a fantastic way to do this match. I love that Chavo retained. I love that he didn't retain cleanly. You still got to throw a little bit of that lie, cheat, and steal aspect in there. Classic needs to be involved all the time. He is fucking fantastic. The Dragon gets a showcase. Everything about this is what WrestleMania matches should be. They fucked that Cruiserweight division so hard that I didn't think they could do any worse until they did about 10 years later when they fucked it even harder. But yes, this is fantastic. I love everything about it.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. It's not very often that I get this much praise from you, so I must be really got my my working boots on in terms of my I got my Booker's pencil sharpened this week. Next up on the card, we of course have Howard Finkel introducing the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2004.
Are you going to run down who's in it? Did you change any of that, or is it still the same?
No. I like that spot, so I just wanted to mention it. The next match on the card is
hold on. I know that we're not there yet, but I want to know: is Jesse Ventura pulling out a microphone at any time?
You'll see. We'll see.
Okay, I like the little thing. Leave me hanging there. So, yeah, I mean, up next originally, Jay, you had a barn burner of a match up next. You had that Playboy evening gown match featuring Sable, Tori Wilson, Miss Jackie, and Stacy Keibler. Yeah,
that is
scratched, I hope.
Next match on the card is for the WWE Women's Championship. It is your champion, Victoria, going up against Molly Holly.
Hair stipulation or just a match?
The match stays largely the same, but the hair stipulation is gone. Molly is the challenger, having beat Gail Kim, easy for me to say, in a number one contenders match. Victoria is a fighting champion and eager for the contest. Molly would cut promos indicating that she will bring prestige and class back to the championship. At WrestleMania, the match is well worked, similarly to the one in Canon. The finish comes as Victoria goes for a widow's peak that is countered into a reverse bulldog. Molly hits the Molly go round for the pin. Your winner and new women's champion, Molly Holly.
Yeah, I mean, these two women are both solid workers. Molly Holly, to me, is one of the most underrated women's wrestlers of all time. Maybe even just wrestler of all time. She's the Holly that deserved to be on this card, and you made the right choice by keeping her and maybe not her older cousin Bob there. Yeah, it's good. I like it. I like that the match pretty much stayed the same. I'm okay that there's no hair stipulation because that kind of just was there for the sake of being there. Like, we all know the real story. That's how the title match got put on the actual card, is Molly was willing to give up her hair. I'm glad we didn't have to do something like that to make sure that women got on the WrestleMania card.
Yeah, I didn't think it was necessary, and I also didn't think it added anything afterwards. Yeah, you got a couple of comedy spots, I guess, on Raw and things like that for the months afterwards, but I just thought it was kind of, why are we doing this? We don't need to. Maybe I'm looking at it through the lens of, 2022. But I just feel like let's just let a couple of really good workers go out there and do their thing.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Well, the next match on the original card was kind of one of those, let's see how many guys we can get on the card. Let's see if we can get them a WrestleMania payday. We had the Cruiserweight Open for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship with Chavo defending against Akio, wow, voice crack a little bit there. Akio, Billy Kidman, Funaki, Jamie Noble, Nunzio, Shannon Moore, Rey Mysterio, Tajiri, and the Ultimo Dragon. What is in its place, my friend?
The next match on the card is Booker T versus Kane.
So it's not shampoo this year. It's body wash, maybe?
Well, let's see. Kane is restless. Having spent the better part of 2003 on a path of destruction, the Big Red Machine sets his sights on Booker T. In a seemingly unprovoked attack, Kane decimates Booker T backstage while Booker is en route to the ring on Raw. The following week on Raw, it is revealed that Booker T had been expressing frustration about seemingly being an afterthought for this year's Mania. Kane cuts an ominous promo saying that Booker should be careful what he wished for. Booker would retaliate on Kane backstage with an attack of his own. As a result, Kane is busted open with a chair shot to the head. Booker has eyes in the back of his head for the weeks following as Kane is mysteriously absent. The Go Home Raw finds Booker still unsure if the match is on at WrestleMania. As Booker calls out Kane, we cut to a shot outside of the arena on the parking lot where Booker's rental car is engulfed in flames. A maniacal Kane laughs in a sinister fashion as he throws a can of gas onto the flames and blows up Booker's car. At WrestleMania, the two would have a brawl, both men exchanging the upper hand. Kane is clotheslined over the top as Booker follows with a crossbody over the top. The two trade bombs on the rampway with Booker getting the best of Kane. Kane responds with a big boot, sending Booker to the stage. Kane picks up a dazed Booker and launches him into the LED boards. Booker is limp and lifeless. Kane then picks up Booker and chokeslams him off the stage onto the floor. The referee, who has been following the action rather than counting the competitors out, calls for the bell. While he has already allowed quite a bit of latitude, this has gone way too far. Booker's attended to by medical staff, while Kane laughs and hits his pyro. Winner, no contest.
Yeah, okay. Can't really say that I'm a fan of this, even thinking about it or wanting to watch it. It just they're not. It's not a feud that I ever really want to see, and I don't know why, because they're both good workers, they're both good characters, but just putting them together to me, just no. I'll pass. I mean, you've done great. You're bound to have something I don't like. It's always bound to happen, and this just happens to be it.
No, and for sure. I mean, I think basically what happened for me, Tyrone, was that these two guys were kind of the odd men out on the card this year, and I wanted to get them into something, and I just felt like this was actually one of the harder ones for me to come up with a story. So I know that maybe parts of it are a little bit, I don't think it has holes in it, but some of it's a bit of a stretch. But I mean, it's wrestling, so we get to where we get, and of course, this will maybe lead to something else down the road, another match of some sort. But no, I'm with you. I mean, on paper, I don't know. I think it would be a good match, but I don't know how it would be in terms of, but people would respond to it as a story.
Yeah, it's kind of like the 18 matches for both Booker T and Kane. Like Booker T and Edge were kind of thrown together, it seemed, and so were Kane and Kurt Angle. So it's almost one of those situations where it's all right, it's there. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it's going to be a fine match, and it's going to be a complete and utter assault on Booker. But yeah, it's there. I'm ready to move on if you are.
Sure am, pal.
Well, up next we had a train wreck with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, with Stone Cold as the special guest ref. Now, I'm going to assume that this isn't existing because of the whole Brock Lesnar that we've had built up with Taker. So what do we have going on?
Well, next up, we have Bobby the Brain Heenan making his way to ringside to be a guest commentator. Jesse Ventura would take issue with this and emerges from the entrance as Bobby is placing his headphones on. Ventura grabs the house mic and starts cutting a promo in the ring about how he is the true voice of WrestleMania. After Ventura says hello to Terry, Tyrell, Jade, and Jeremiah from Minnesota, Heenan leaves the announce table and confronts Ventura. The two are exchanging insults until a famous glass shatters. Austin makes his way down to ringside to cut both men off. He puts them both over as legends and offers them both a cold beer. In typical Rattlesnake fashion, Austin exchanges cheers with both men, only to have Ventura be the recipient of a stone-cold stunner. Heenan looks frightened and backtracks until Austin offers to bring another Keystone Light, and the two men have a beer bash in the ring.
Yeah, I don't really think that Jesse Ventura, or I mean, not Jesse Ventura, Bobby Heenan was able to take any bumps of any sort whatsoever, let alone a stunner. So, yeah, this makes sense. This is fun. It's a nice little pop for the crowd. Get a little Bobby Heenan and Jesse Ventura on there, get Steve Austin involved. I'm not mad at this at all.
Well, thank you very much, sir. What is the next match on the card?
So that's replacing the Goldberg Lesnar match. Period. Is just that segment.
I just wanted to get a segment into the mat or into the show with Austin. We wouldn't have seen Austin since Survivor Series 2003 in our universe. So I feel like why not, surprise the crowd, have him come out and be involved with that spot. I feel like, yeah, it's something to kind of, give the audience a break from the in-ring action, but obviously having Austin come out is a huge deal. So I just felt like it was a nice little piece of business on the card. It wouldn't take too long. And then, of course, you have Austin do his fanfare, crush a bunch of beers, and head back off.
All right. Well, yeah, no, that's cool. But the next match after Goldberg and Lesnar would be the Fatal 4-Way match for the WWE Tag Team Championship with Scotty 2 Hotty and Rikishi going against the world's greatest tag team, the Basham Brothers and the APA.
Next match on the card is Edge versus Goldberg.
Okay. I'm a little skeptical, but yeah, I'm always willing to hear you out.
All right, so after the Royal Rumble, Goldberg was starting to regain some of his momentum. Having regrouped from the Evolution feud that consumed him in recent months, Goldberg was accumulating wins. In the weeks leading to Mania, Goldberg would manage to get a victory over Viscera with a huge spear. After the match, Edge would appear out of the crowd and nail Goldberg with a spear of his own. The following week on Raw, Edge would explain that he has been gone for far too long, and in his absence, Goldberg was free to not only use his spear, but also occupy his spot on the card. Goldberg would retort that he was unaware of Edge using the spear, citing that Edge was a nobody and he wasn't even on his radar. This infuriated Edge. The two would exchange heated promos weekly. On the Go Home Raw, Goldberg would be in action versus Rene Dupree. Edge would attack Goldberg and nail him with a concerto. At WrestleMania, the two would work a very snug match. Goldberg hits his power spots. Edge is able to evade a spear attempt, but is rattled with a second successful attempt on the part of Goldberg for a near fall. As Goldberg has Edge hoisted up for a press slam, Edge rakes the eyes and counters into a DDT. After a near fall, Goldberg collects himself. Edge is poised to deliver the spear, but a still dazed Goldberg manages to step aside Edge. As this happens, Edge recovers with a quick slide into the corner, manages to gain his momentum and his footing, and an oblivious Goldberg turns around into a vicious spear for the pin. Your winner, Edge.
So I take it that Bill is done with the company at this point. Like that's staying the same, correct?
Yep.
Then I'm okay with this. It's Edge who is at this point wasn't really a main event player. He was on the cusp, but he wasn't there yet. So having him go over Goldberg, trying to build a star, I get it. Makes sense. Yeah, it's Battle of the Spears.
Wait.
Why not?
Yeah, you have to remember that he had also been he hadn't been returned since his neck injury in 2003. So he would return at the draft, the Raw draft, like 2 weeks after this. So I thought, why not just bring up his return to Mania and then have him return in a heel role going up against Goldberg. And I think that would be a really impactful hit for him to go over Goldberg on Bill's way out of the company.
Oh, and Edge is way better as a heel than a face. I have said that since day damn one. He is just hilarious. Whether if he's being a goofball heel, he's hilarious. He's perfect. He's hateable. If he's being the rated R superstar, he is just intense and hateable and willing to do anything to win. Like, it's great. I love it. I'm happy with it. He's back. He left in Montreal. He returns in New York City. 2 fucking huge hot cities for wrestling. We all know that. Yeah, let's do it. Well,
Awesome.
up next
I
we had
appreciate
Victoria and Molly Holly for the women's championship in a hair versus title match. So what do we have taking its place?
Next match on the card is the Rock and Sock Connection versus Evolution.
So you are really loading the back end of this card, aren't you? I am kind of surprised by that, but yeah, are we keeping this the same?
Yeah, it's going to stay the exact same. I didn't see any reason to change it. Now, you do have to remember that Foley was on the Survivor Series team against Evolution for Steve Austin that we booked in our archives for Survivor Series 2003. And then, of course, Foley would be involved in the Royal Rumble. But we're really building up towards this Foley-Randy Orton match, which is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen in our universe on the following night, or rather the following month at Backlash. But I just felt like this match was good the way it was. I didn't think it needed to change much. I debated taking one of the members of Evolution out and doing a traditional 2-on-2. But I just feel like, you know what, for what it was, maybe let's just keep it the same.
Agreed. I think having the 3-on-2 was smart just because you put 2-on-2 and you say you take Flair out of the match and you have Batista and Orton going against Rock and Sock. I would see that as almost too much too soon for those two. Whereas when you have Flair on the team, it's like they needed the guidance of the mentor, the dirtiest player in the game. They couldn't have done it without him being a part of it. So it tells a bit more of a story that these two young bulls are not just defeating 2 legends cleanly, no problem.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that you kind of keep everybody whole by doing the 2-on-1 advantage or the 3-on-2 disadvantage. It keeps Rock and Foley whole as opposed to just having them lose clean, to your point. So yeah, I think it was good to stay the same, and then it opens up a lot of possibilities for the weeks and months to come.
Oh, I agree. And so up next then, we would have Eddie Guerrero going up against Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship in a match that I hope is still there.
Next match on the card is for the WWE Championship. It is Eddie Guerrero, your champion, going up against Kurt Angle.
Good. I'm assuming this stays the same, that nothing is changing, that the boot is still coming off at the end.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite finishes in WrestleMania history for a match. I mean, the fact that he had unlaced his boot and then Angle, when it goes for the ankle lock and he gets rolled up, I just absolutely love that finish. There's no way you could change it. You couldn't make it any better. It was perfect.
Oh, I agree completely. That's why I'm very glad that it's staying. You know my feelings on both these men, especially Eddie Guerrero. Big fan. Big fan. Gone too soon. Can't say enough good about that man. Do you want to keep talking about this one, or do you want to move on to what I assume is going to be a fun little thing?
No, it's yeah, I don't think there's much to say about it. I mean, anybody listening to this podcast, I would imagine, has seen the match. And if you haven't, go out of your way to check it out. There isn't much that we can really add to it to really discuss or hype it up more than it already has been. It really is a phenomenal match and one of the better championship matches in WrestleMania history. So go out of your way to check it out if you haven't, or if you have, watch it again.
Couldn't have said that better, my dude. Well, up next we have Kane going 1-on-1 against the returning Dead Man, accompanied by the fat man himself, Paul Bearer.
Next match on the card is for the WWE Tag Team Championship, and it is your champions, the world's greatest tag team, going up against the APA.
So are we going more of a brawl or more of a technical? Who are we favoring here?
So after No Way Out, the world's greatest tag team is riding high on the hog. The duo has become very confident in their skills, and rightfully so. After the champions retain their titles over Scotty 2 Hotty and Rikishi in a rematch on SmackDown, Haas and Benjamin find themselves celebrating in the unoccupied offices of the APA. While the duo drink Farouk and Bradshaw's beer, even daring to clip a couple of cigars, the tag team champions are caught red-handed as the APA was simply out for a beer run. The APA proceeds to beat the hell out of the tag champions. Following a disingenuous attempt to make peace the following week on SmackDown by offering the APA a case of wine coolers, Haas and Benjamin surprise attack Farouk and Bradshaw, leaving them laying. The match at Mania is signed. As you'd expect, the match is a story of power versus finesse. The finish comes as Bradshaw sends Haas into the ropes for a clothesline from hell. Benjamin gets the hot tag. Haas is practically decapitated as Benjamin builds a head of steam and drop kicks Bradshaw, knocking him into the corner, causing the APA's heads to hit. Farouk is knocked off the apron as Bradshaw is hit with a top rope bulldog for the pin. Your winners, the world's greatest tag team.
Yeah, that's the right choice. I get it. The APA doesn't need the titles at this point, and we're only a couple of months away from JBL becoming JBL and turning into quite possibly one of the greatest success stories of a tag team wrestler turning solo, other than Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart, ever. I mean, I know that I've just said that, and now many of people are going to come at me and be like, ever? How about Booker T? How about, I'm talking WWE only, okay, kids? So don't come at me with your Chris Jerichos, your Lance Storms, your Booker T's, anything like that. Yeah, I'm sure that someone else is going to show me somebody from the WWE tag team, but come on. JBL is at least top 5. Hondo P. Prove me wrong. You can't. Just told you, you can't. So yes, this makes sense. Yeah, I'm good with this. I love Haas. I love Benjamin. I love seeing Bradshaw and Farouk fucking fight over beer. Why not? Let's throw it on Mania. You're the king of ebbs and flows. This is to bring us down after the Edge, Goldberg, Rock, Mick Foley, Kurt Angle, Ric Flair, Batista, Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle thing that we've just witnessed. So yeah, let's go. Let's bring it down a little bit before we get to probably an Undertaker, probably a Triple H, you know.
I'm just very happy about the fact that you just used the term Hundo P on our podcast for the first time. That was thrilling for me.
Hey man, I'm just as woke as the young universe out there too, okay? But I'm full of charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
Okay. Well, what's the next match on the card, my dear close personal longtime friend?
Well, I mean, according to Wikipedia, the last match is where we're at now, which is Benoit, Triple H, and Michaels for the World Heavyweight Championship in that classic triple threat. But I feel like you've got a couple left, so why don't you just take the reins and tell me what we got, boo?
Sounds good. Well, the next match on the card is The Undertaker going up against Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured we were getting here because you decided to start building that, and I had to incorporate it into an Eddie Guerrero Brock Lesnar match somehow. So yeah, let's go Brock versus Taker. I feel like the streak will stay intact because if we have to obey what really happened, this is Brock's last match, correct?
It is his last match, yes. So, after the events of No Way Out, Lesnar is pissed. Not only has Lesnar lost the championship, but having thought The Undertaker was buried alive, it was a shock that he had seemingly risen. On the Thursday following the pay-per-view, Brock browbeats Heyman for not putting a stop to the unnecessary interference at the show. Brock gives Heyman an ultimatum that if Paul cannot use his power as the SmackDown GM to get the decision reversed by the end of the show, he would be fired as his agent. As we close the show, Heyman is unsuccessful in his attempts to finds himself in the receiving end of a beatdown. A bloody Heyman would be F5 to close the show. On the following week's SmackDown, Brock calls The Undertaker out. There's silence. Only clues that The Undertaker is nearby. The following week during Lesnar's match with Hardcore Holly, a burial wreath appears at ringside. After Lesnar dispatches of Holly, Brock is enraged and destroys the wreath along with most of ringside. On the go-home SmackDown, Brock makes his last attempt to call out the man from the dark side. The lights flicker. We hear a singular gong. The lights go out. Another gong. Lights. And the lighting hits the entrance ramp. Suddenly, the black lights come up, revealing a casket standing up. A bolt of lightning hits the casket, sending the door flying to reveal a body inside. As we get a close-up, it's a lifelike wax figure of Brock Lesnar that has been made to appear deceased. Waxwork or not, Brock is rattled. Brock charges the aisle, only for the lights to go out again. A gong brings the lights up. The casket and its contest have vanished. At WrestleMania, Brock is out first. The Undertaker's entrance stays the same as in canon. I think that that's the greatest Undertaker entrance in the history of WrestleMania, is the one at WrestleMania 20. The match is hard-hitting. Brock hits a series of Germans. Undertaker answers each of his Germans with a classic sit-up. Brock then unleashes a barrage of clubbing blows. Lesnar executes an overhead belly-to-belly, followed by an F5. Lesnar starts flipping off the fans at the capacity crowd of MSG as they chant, "You sold out." Lesnar then turns his attention to Bear and gives him the finger as well. Suddenly, The Undertaker sits up. Brock turns around, expecting a prone dead man, only to find a series of hard right hands, followed by a scoop slam, or rather a scoop up and a snake eyes to the corner. Taker lands the big boot. As Lesnar is reeling, Brock attempts a few lumbering shots, a left, a right. Both are avoided by the dead man. Brock is the recipient of a choke slam, followed by a tombstone pile driver. Your winner, The Undertaker.
Okay, so 2 issues that I am going to take with you on this, and funnily enough, none of them have to do with the match whatsoever. I don't like that you did that wax figure in the casket thing, because that had been done only 8 years prior. And I get you're doing a throwback, but we saw it, and Taker's usually not one to repeat something like that. He keeps constantly reinventing, and this is the rebirth of the dead man character. So I don't like that we rehash something and do what we did with Kevin Nash 8 years prior. But that's me personally. And second of all, how can you say this is the best entrance of The Undertaker when he fucking came out with Fred Durst at 19 to Roland and gave him a bro hug in the ring and everything? So you shut your filthy mouth that this is the best Undertaker entrance.
Okay, well, your second point I'm not even going to respond to because it's ridiculous. And the first point, I do understand what you're saying, but I think that there have been times that with some of the mystical powers that the Undertaker has and things of that nature, I think that we have seen some repetitiveness over the years. I mean, it takes years for us to see some version of it over again. But I mean, we saw the casket spot at WrestleMania 14, the build up to WrestleMania 14 when the casket was burned in effigy. We would see it with Kevin Nash in a different scenario. So I've kind of combined a couple of different things here. I get what you're saying, that we've kind of seen some version of it before, but we also didn't see it, in the form that we saw it on that particular SmackDown. So I kind of see what you're saying, but it's a little different as well.
Yeah, okay. I mean, this is way better than what we got with him and Kane. That's for goddamn sure. That match was atrocious. I get why they did it, but absolutely unnecessary. We don't ever need to see another Undertaker-Kane match again. I will go on record and say I hope neither one of us ever book one. But, yeah, this is better. Brock Lesnar going out, doing the job to Taker makes total sense. He's going to still go out with some respect from the crowd, even though that they probably know he's going to the NFL and no, goodbye. But it's not going to hijack it like it did with Goldberg, because everybody is super excited to see The Undertaker back as the dead man. Yeah, all right, I'm cool with this. Let's get to your main event, which I assume is next. Am I correct?
You are correct, and it is actually going to be for the World Heavyweight Championship, a triple threat match. Your champion, Triple H, defending against Shawn Michaels, and your Royal Rumble winner, Chris Benoit. Match is staying the same. I think it's one of the most underrated main events in WrestleMania history. It doesn't get talked about enough for obvious reasons, but I do think it stands on its own as one of the better main events. Certainly, I would go on record to say the best multi-person main event in WrestleMania history.
Oh, okay, I'll 100% give you best multi-person main event in history, because the rest of them, like the Fatal 4-Way at 16, sucked. The triple threat at 30 was okay, and I can't even think of any others. So I may. Is that it? Are those the only ones? Am I forgetting something?
Well, we had the women's triple threat as well at 35.
Right, which was an all right match, but considering it went on at like 1 o'clock in the morning, I think everybody was just burnt out about it and completely. It didn't get what it deserved in that aspect. But yeah, this is definitely the best multi-person Mania main event, and I would say it is definitely in my top 10, maybe even my top 5. I just, you know me, it's hard to talk about Chris Benoit for me. I Yeah, I just don't like talking about him, even though it's been how like what fucking almost 10 years since. No, not that long.
No, it's been 15.
Or sorry, 15 years. Yeah, and
Yeah.
for some reason, I just had a brain fart that 2014 was 8 years ago, but it sure isn't. It was 18 years ago. Yeah, it's a good match. I get keeping it. I don't know where we go from here. I don't know if we keep the title on Benoit until they come to Toronto. It's in August and have them drop it to Orton still. There's a lot of things we can do. So I'm fine with this. I just don't want to get the 17 Triple H Chris Benoit rematches that we had, because this match was fantastic for the fact that it was 3 ring generals in there. You had Triple H, you had Chris Benoit, and you had Shawn Michaels, all of which who could go the distance, all of which who are complete professionals and can give you whatever you want. They can pull your heartstrings. They can make you love them. They can make you hate them. Then you have Chris Benoit go out there and finally get the win. You have Eddie Guerrero come out, which I'm assuming is still happening because it was such a beautiful moment. The two best friends hugging at the end of a fucking WWE WrestleMania with their respected world championships in hand. Oh, I got goosebumps just saying that. God damn. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a perfect ending.
Yeah, you can't change it. I think the match alone, being what it was just such a phenomenally well worked match. I always think about the spot where Michaels gets sent into the ring post and he is just bleeding like a stuck pig. Really added a lot to the match visually. I think for me, it had been a while since we'd seen, that amount of color in a WWE ring. The match was just so well worked. It was great, done so well psychologically. With between the different spots, and of course, you had Triple H and Michaels work over Benoit in some semblance of a DX reunion, putting Benoit through the table. All these different spots that we saw that really told a really, really beautiful story, I thought, for this match. So I think it made a lot of sense just to keep it. Again, to your point, everything that I booked on this card, I feel like is going to bring us somewhere down the line. There was maybe a couple of blow-offs. Like, for example, I don't know that we need to revisit the APA versus the world's greatest tag team. I think we can go on to other things there. But for the most part, I feel like we've left a lot of open-ended threads here for whoever books Backlash 2004.
Now, this main event, was this the first ever main event of WrestleMania that ended in a tap out as well? Like, there was no pinfall. I feel like it is. I'm honestly trying to think this right now, and the only one that comes to mind, like, did Brett win by sharpshooter at 10 or no?
No, he won because remember Yoko fell off the ropes.
Right. So this is the first submission main event victory then. And to have Triple H tap out to Benoit is a whole other story. Like, that's crazy in its own.
Well, I mean, if you look at Triple H's matches, he's won a lot, he's lost a lot more of them than he's won. So,
No, I'm aware of that, but he always loses them to people that you kind of would expect, like a Batista or Randy Orton. Like, you know what I mean? Chris Benoit was that one where it could have gone either way. You had a good feeling he was going to win, but you weren't sure if he was going to beat Triple H or if he was going to go over on Michaels, and then that could be the storyline to have Triple H go forward. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I thought was going to happen then, was have Benoit beat Michaels and Hunter not be involved in the pinfall or submission, and then that led us to Backlash.
Yeah, I mean, you could have done it that way for sure, but I think to establish Benoit as the next champion, you kind of had to have him go over against the current champion. I get that you could have done it, but they end up doing a rematch of the triple threat the following month anyways. I don't know if that'll be something that we do in our booking. But I do think that it warrants maybe a singles match between the two and have Michaels do something else. And then you kind of just blow that off and then you go on to something else with Benoit and something else with Trips. I certainly don't want to see that Triple H and Eugene match at SummerSlam if I'm the one rebooking 2004. But, we'll see what happens going forward. It's an interesting question, actually. Where do we go from here? Because, as you said, it's where it all begins again. So where will we be beginning next?
I forgot all about that Eugene Triple H feud. That was something that happened.
Yeah, I would have rather seen like Regal versus Triple H at SummerSlam. That would have been awesome.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, we know what we're getting at SummerSlam. So, yeah, spoiler alert, kids.
Long-term booking.
Well, overall, dude, I think you did a pretty good job. You were given a hefty task, like I said, rebooking for 2 different shows, bunch of different champions, bunch of different storylines. And, yeah, like you said, you gave us some things to work with. You killed some feuds, which I'm fine with. We're done with Bill in the WWE for a long time. We're done with Brock in WWE for a long time. So it's going to be a bunch of new challengers coming up. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what we do.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. It's, as I said, it's not that often I get more or less universal praise with a couple of small critiques, but I'm very thankful that you enjoyed my booking. This one took me quite a while to do, as you said, because there were so many moving parts. So I'm happy you enjoyed it. And without further ado, now, folks, we are, as we talked about at the top of the show, we are now hurtling towards WrestleMania. And I know that come WrestleMania, Monday, there's always that proverbial WrestleMania hangover. So I've thought about this long and hard, and I'm going to tell you something on air that I haven't even told Tyrone. I have decided to turn over the table here a little bit for Tyrone's next booking choice and next booking challenge. And I think we're going to go right in to the April offerings of WWE pay-per-views. Originally, we had talked about possibly rebooking a Raw after Mania to set up subsequent feuds, but I kind of feel like I'm done talking about Mania after today, Tyrone. I think probably you feel the same, knowing you as well as I do. So how would you feel about rebooking an April offering of a WWE show?
That sounds lovely. They're also not 7 hours to watch. So, yeah, I'm okay with that because it's probably single brand or before the brand split even. So, yeah, let's go with April.
All right. Well, you are going to go back into the archives, my friend, and you're going to have to bone up on WrestleMania 18 because next week you will be rebooking WWF Backlash 2002.
The final WWF North American pay-per-view. I can tell you one thing. You probably won't see a title. You won't see a brother walking out with the championship. That's a spoiler there, kids. That's not a promise. That's a spoiler.
Well, if you remember our history, Tyrone, we did, I booked WrestleMania 18 last year. We haven't really touched much on 2002 since. And I feel like we're obliged here to kind of pick up the mantle and finish off 2002 this year. So remember that your champion walking out of WrestleMania 18 was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And of course, you did have DX versus the NWO, the Outsiders, as well. So I'm going to be very curious to see where you go as we travel back to WrestleMania 18 and take us into the following month's events.
You know who else is under contract for the WWF in 2002, right, Jay?
Who is that, pal?
Well, there's a few of them. There's Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. There's Goldust. There's Raven. So this could be the biggest mistake you have ever made.
Awesome. So we're going to have Austin run the gauntlet versus Goldust, Raven, and Mr. Perfect in that order.
Or Or Raven ran him over with a car, and then, yeah, I don't know where we go from there. I mean, if anyone's getting hit by a car in wrestling, it's Steve Austin. So
I'd like to see you make a tag team with Raven and Maven.
and just call it Haven.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. Challenge
You
accepted.
could turn Maven goth.
Oh my God. No, because I feel like Maven's original theme song was fucking great, and it doesn't get enough love, and it doesn't work with goth.
Well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe you can give him one of those justifiable homicide tattoos that The Undertaker had, and maybe that'll give him some cred. I don't know. But
Maybe I'll just bring New Jack to manage them.
Yeah, with his staple gun in tow.
There we go.
We have a lot of fun stuff coming up. Now, I know WrestleMania season is always such a blast for us. Tyrone and I are both eager to watch this weekend show. I know myself probably a little bit more than Tyrone you are, but we just want to thank you folks for sticking with us. We are rapidly approaching a milestone. Sometime this year we'll be hitting our 100th show, so we're coming up on that shortly, and we're very excited as well to be offering you some spring pay-per-views as well. We'll be touching on WCW again in this month, and hopefully some ECW soon too, because we haven't touched on the Land of the Extreme in a while.
Yeah, it's definitely been a Federation heavy show for a little while, but of those 100 episodes that have been put out, I feel like I've maybe been on 47 of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to go back, folks, and look. I'm not 100% sure where we are right now, but I know that sometime within the next couple of months, we're going to be hitting that 100th milestone, and we'll be booking something. Maybe we'll do a retrospective. Maybe we'll book something. Maybe we'll just take the week off. I don't know, but we're going to have fun.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, it's our 100th episode. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. So, Tyrone, where can our listening audience find us on social media?
Instagram, good_enemies. Facebook, good friends, better enemies. And on Twitter at good_enemies. And as always, for everything good friends, better enemies, count it out 7. And classic match classroom. Head over.
You got
I nailed it. Head over to countitout7.com.
And for myself, for Tyrone, for WrestleMania 20, where it all begins again, and for next week's offering of Backlash 2002, you've been listening to the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast.
Hey, yo.